Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the Choose UCalgary podcast. For all of our new listeners, my name is Aidyn and I am your season 4 host. I just wanted to welcome you all and say thank you for tuning in today. I am a current student here at the University of Calgary. I absolutely love it here, and I am working as a digital student recruitment ambassador. So now that you know a little bit about me, we can get into the topic of today's episode, which I'm really excited about. I am joined here with special guest Allison. Allison is an undergraduate student here at the University of Calgary as well, and she's going to be chatting with us about the peer program and peer awards at UCalgary. She'll be talking a little bit more about her research experience, along with just any of her favorite moments throughout her post-secondary journey here so far. So on that note, welcome Allison, and thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So can you maybe introduce yourself a little bit more?
Absolutely, yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm a student within the peer program. I grew up just outside of Calgary, so in the smaller area of Airdrie. Just this year, I wrapped up my third year of study, so I'll be starting my fourth in the fall. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview of me.
Cool, that's great. I'm also just ended my third year and I'll be going into my fourth year as well. So
So
very exciting
exciting.
times.
Definitely.
What made you decide to apply to the University of Calgary in the first place?
I think one of the first things that made me want to apply to the U of C was, as I said, I kind of grew up just outside of the city. So I had always wanted to spend more time within Calgary and have the experience to explore it a little bit more. And I mean, being close to the mountains is always a pro. I can't say that's a bad thing. But the other thing that I really loved about the U of C was when I went on a campus tour. That really helped me solidify my decision. I loved TFDL so much, the library on campus here, and just so many of the buildings and the campus atmosphere. So that was a really big reason too that I applied to the U of C as well.
For sure. I went on a campus tour as well, and that did it for me. I was like, yep, I can just see myself here. And I found that the tour was so just exciting, and it got me really excited too. So I would definitely agree with you on that one. And TFDL is, yeah, also one of my favorite buildings on campus. Super modern, so many floors, lots of different things that you can do there, and definitely miss visiting it.
Me too. I can't wait for COVID to be over so I can go back to my sixth floor TFDL. I miss it.
Yes, me too. So, what made you decide to apply to the program you're interested in then? I don't even know. Did you say which program you're taking?
Oh, I think I might have forgotten to mention that in my intro.
That's okay.
I'm studying psychology, and definitely what made me interested in psychology was how broad of a field it is and how diverse it is. But on top of that, all the diverse areas in psychology are really focused on helping or contributing to society in some way, in my opinion. So, for example, you might be able to look at something like mental health, which has obvious ways to help give back. But even things you might not think of, like IO psychology, which is industrial organizational, has such big ways that they can contribute back to society. So, really, psychology was just such a diverse field that really interested me. And I knew that I could take a lot of different paths within the field.
There's so much you can do just with psychology. Like, it's very broad. You can specify your interests and you can discover so many cool things with it.
Agreed.
You mentioned you were a student in the PURE program. So, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so the PURE program is an abbreviation, and it's an abbreviation for the Program for Undergraduate Research. And essentially, what that is an experience where students can take their in-person learning, or sorry, their in-class learning, and they can extend that into the research setting. So by doing that, you'll have the opportunity to work under experts in your field. For example, professors most of the time take on that role. But essentially, yeah, you'll be able to look at novel things that maybe you don't have the experience to within your classes and really explore your field more in depth. With the PURE program, it's a funded program, so you can get essentially paid like a summer job if you want to think of it like that. And there's the opportunity to have funding for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 16 weeks. So you can do that throughout the months of May through August. And yeah, it's quite flexible to be able to work under your professors and supervisors.
That's really cool. So during those weeks, is it like pretty much full time or can you still kind of take classes? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's up to 35 hours a week, but it does tend to be relatively flexible with your supervisor's expectations, and you do get to kind of chat about that with them. But yes, it is a full-time commitment to PURE. There's no rule that says you can't take classes. However, it is recommended by the PURE program that you don't take any more than one class, and that's really just so that you can focus full-time on PURE. But I know when I did peer the first time in summer 2020, I actually did end up taking a class for a few of those weeks. So that's not to say that it's impossible to do classes. If you need to catch up on them or anything of the sorts, you can keep taking them and progress through your degree as you do your research.
Perfect. So, what kinds of research would you say are like the most commonly looked at in Pure? And then maybe you could talk a bit more about your research as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So I don't know that there's necessarily something that's the most common within Pure. You're really able to tailor the experience to whatever discipline you're in. So I know I've connected with students in engineering, sciences, arts, all across the university. You'll find students in Pure. So that's not to say there's something most common or something least common. You can really tailor the experience to your needs. As for my research, I could talk about it all day. It's really become like my baby. But when I first started the project, we had no idea that COVID was going to happen, but we were researching individual differences in online learning. So obviously when COVID hit and classes went online, that really took on a whole new meaning in terms of who it could help. And it really just helped a larger demographic at that point because the whole world was online learning. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure when everything moved online, that really just opened up a whole new door to your research. You were probably able to like dive even deeper into it.
Totally, for sure. It really just highlighted the importance to me of what we were doing. It was already a topic that I was feeling pretty passionate about and I thought could really help the demographic that was taking online classes. But as soon as it moved to being the whole undergraduate, graduate demographic, and even like K to 12, it was really important to me at that point as well.
Calgary is our city of choice for many reasons. It's ranked the cleanest city in the world and also the sunniest city in Canada. We love the community feel that Calgary gives us, and we can't wait for you to be a part of it too. For more reasons to love Calgary, please check out the link in the episode notes.
So I started my research in May of the summer of 2020, and then I went through until the end of August.
Okay, cool. So pretty recent still, so that's nice. What would you say really like sparked your interest to apply to Pure and your interest in research?
I think my interest in research really came from the desire to be able to extend my learning from the classroom to more broad novel experiences, if you will. I really wanted to be able to learn more about my field that maybe I couldn't just from sitting in a classroom. Although, mind you, you do pick up a ton from being in class, of course. But I was just really looking forward to being able to create knowledge rather than just absorb the knowledge that I was listening to. So that really sparked my interest. As well, I'm really looking forward to going to graduate school, hopefully. I'll be looking at applying to those soon. So that was definitely another reason that I wanted to become involved in research. But yeah, I love research so much.
And that's a great opportunity then. And yeah, especially if you are looking to do grad school or any sort of post-secondary after education, I think having that research experience will be super beneficial to you.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, what is the first step a student should take if they were interested in applying for Pure or they kind of just wanted to, learn a bit more about it and see how they could apply or if they were eligible? Like, what should they do?
I would say the first step to applying for a peer award would be first to connect with potential supervisors. So this could be people within your field at the U of C who are researching topics that you're interested in, or even just like professors that you've had classes with. I know that's the route that I ended up taking. I had professors that I really admired, and I just spent some time chatting with them after class, and they ended up becoming my supervisors. So that's definitely one way to go about it. And really just getting to know your professors, getting to know people in your field. And that's great in so many other ways than just getting a peer award as well. And then the other thing I would say as well is to really look at the peer website. There's a whole page for student information that you can find there, and you can look at the eligibility criteria there. And one more thing that I also would like to toss in there for first steps is that I remember when I was going to apply for the peer award, I felt really, really overwhelmed by the thought of having to have everything together. I thought that I had to come up with the project and bring that to a potential supervisor and really just be super ready to go. The truth is that can be a little bit unrealistic for a first-time researcher. So definitely something that would be important for first steps is just to realize that you don't have to have it all figured out right then and there. Part of the peer program really is to build your confidence as a researcher. And so you get to work with your supervisor to figure that type of stuff out. So yeah, if you're looking at applying for peer awards, definitely don't feel like you have to have it all figured out before you even think about applying.
That's great advice because I feel like it could be a little bit maybe intimidating if someone isn't fully sure what they even want to do and what research they wanted to conduct. And it's like you don't have to have it all figured out right away, but even just being interested in research and wanting to take that first step is already such a huge step to take, I guess. And you're right, connecting with your profs and just expanding your network and getting to know people within your field and your industry.
Of course, yeah, because I mean, as great as it is to build your network for a variety of reasons, there's also a pretty good chance that you could find a supervisor within that network. At the end of the day, it's really meaningful to be able to connect with your professors that you admire in more ways than just wanting them as a supervisor. So that's really a great way to go about those first steps.
Definitely. So, is there different sort of eligibility requirements that a student has to have before they would apply?
So there's a few different eligibility requirements, but they're really not very intimidating, which is great news for anyone looking to get involved with research. The eligibility requirements that Pure sets out is that you have to be a full-time undergraduate student who's continuing their studies in the following year. So for example, I'm in my third year, but if I were to apply after, before I'm going to graduate, I wouldn't be able to continue. As well, you do have to maintain a 3.2 GPA, and they do use your fall grades to calculate that as well. So that is another thing that they factor into the eligibility criteria.
Okay, so not too scary then.
No, it's not very intimidating, which is good, but
That's great. Well, that I feel like answers most of my questions about Pure. So thank you so much for sharing all of that knowledge. But besides Pure, what would you say is your favorite part about the University of Calgary then?
personally, I would say that the people have absolutely been my most favorite part of the University of Calgary. Since starting my studies here, I've met so many amazing people within my discipline, whether that be professors outside or inside of my discipline. The friends that I've met, so many different people have just been so kind and fantastic and supportive. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the UC is how easy it is to tailor the experience to what you're looking for in a university experience. For example, we have the SU, and there's hundreds of clubs. I don't even know how many there is, but
Yeah,
Clubs Week
over
is,
300.
oh my gosh, yeah, over 300. So Clubs Week is always just crazy, but in a good way, of course. So I think you would have to actively try at the University of Calgary to not have the experience that you're looking for. It's so easy to seek out as long as you put a little bit of effort into it. So that's definitely one of my most favorite things.
I could not agree more with that. No matter what you're interested in, you're going to find someone or something that meets those interests, and it's so easy to just make it your own.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you could give one last sort of tip or piece of advice to any future students who are interested in applying to UCalgary, what would you want to tell them?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to just do it. I know it's easy to have a lot of hesitation when you have so many universities to pick from, but there's really no harm done in just deciding to take the leap of faith and apply. Also, if you're able to take a campus tour, that would be huge. We've been focusing a lot on research, so I think it's just important to highlight too, the U of C right now is on track to become one of the top research universities in Canada. So I think that's it's not necessarily advice, but it is something that I would have liked to know if I knew that I was coming in with an interest in research. So that's definitely important. And then as well, on the topic of researching, it's important to research the school that you want to go to as well. I know we were talking about how many clubs the SU has, and I know that you can even look at what clubs the SU has specifically online. So that's a really great way to research and see where you might fit in best and even create your experience before you even start attending the U of C, really. So I think that would be another piece of advice that I would have.
Yeah, I agree. I actually did that. I remember before I applied when I was still in high school, I was looking at the clubs list, trying to figure out which club am I going to join and trying to see what interested me the most. And it got me really excited. So I can definitely leave the SU clubs list link in the episode notes. And I will also be leaving the Pure website in the episode notes as well for the students to look a little bit more into that. And if they are interested in research, they can find out more information about how they will be able to get involved with Pure. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of your pieces of advice and your experience with research and Pure. I found it very interesting and helpful, and I hope that future students will also find it very interesting and helpful.
Thanks so much for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, Allison, for being such an amazing guest on the Choose UCalgary podcast. Like I said, I really enjoyed chatting with you and learning more about peer awards. And I also just want to give an extra special thanks to all of our listeners who are tuning in. And if you are interested in learning even more, like I said, I will be linking all the resources in the episode notes. So be sure to check that out. And if you have any questions about anything at all, please reach out to me by DMing me on Instagram at the choose.ucalgary Instagram, or you can send me a message on the UCalgary Future Students Facebook page. More than happy to answer anything on there. So yeah, once again, thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you, Allison. And that is all for now. So we will see you in our next episode.